if you take one thing away from this session tonight from a design standpoint, because most of what we've been doing so far is largely just editing, but from a sound design standpoint, never use one sound effect when mixing two of them will give you a much better effect. Part of why we buy a large sound effect library is not to find the perfect sound. It's to find the pieces that are going to make up the perfect sound. I was hired 2 years ago to do sound design for a mixed media piece in St. Louis that was based on the bombing of the abortion clinic in Birmingham. And it called for an explosion from a homemade bomb. There's no real good sound effect in any of my libraries for sound effect of a homemade bomb that was full of nails to create maximum shrapnel to cause the most damage to human life. So I kind of had to think, what's going to make that up? I think we ended up using several small standard explosions, everything from hand grenades to dynamite, rounded it out with an awful lot of debris falling to kind of give those pieces. And in the end, it was not bad, but it was a little thin. So we layered underneath it very, very, very quietly a nuclear explosion. Combined and played live over speakers, it gave a very convincing, you're in the middle of a big explosion. Not so big that it sounded like somebody set off a pocket nuke, but it just rounded things out. Construction of sound effects from a design standpoint is definitely one of the places where you can have the most fun. Now, one problem, those are both really loud sounds together. So it's probably a good idea to drop those considerably. I'm going to start by going at minus 18 dB. I like the crispness of the medium crowd sound, so let's bring that a little bit more to the fore. How do you make something sound like it's closer with audio? You make it louder. All right, so let's try that now with Jonathan. By the way, the arrow keys will not only move the cursor around, it'll move it with scrub. I'm going to tell you truly, I rarely use scrub for practical use in the studio, but I just like the way it sounds.
Talking about the summer concert season, and this summer it's easy to get into the best TTS shows in town because every Friday is Free Ticket Friday. Your chance to see Steely Dan.
Okay, I like where we are. By the way, notice we've got another hunk of sound effect over there. So let's go ahead and neaten this up by once again splitting it and getting rid of what we don't need. Now, we jump ahead to the part where Kelly made his life a little bit easier before coming in tonight. Heck with solo, let's just start muting. Let's move all the way to the beginning. And here I've already gone ahead in the interest of time and chosen 3 hooks. And the reason I've chosen them is because, again, it made my life easier. Are you reeling in the Those are in order for people who are keeping score at home. Steely Dan. Has everybody in this room heard of Steely Dan? I'm curious as I age which bands cast a long shadow in my youth that still cast a long shadow. What was the second? Yep, Ray LaMontagne. And the Black Keys. All right. And you'll notice that I even made my life... Hey! I must have hit ungroup. Undo. Let's group these 3. We can do that just by pushing G. And now we have our song hooks. We don't need the 4th one because apparently they decided to drop that from the script. So we can just simply remove that track. Let's unmute and start doing a little bit of housekeeping.
Because every Friday is Free Ticket Friday.
Okay, getting a little ahead of myself.
Because every Friday is Free Ticket Friday. Your chance to see Steely Dan.
And again, the reason that I basically kept those grouped instead, we're going to need to split. Now the problem is we're now set up in two different groups. So we need to grab this portion and remove those items from the original group. They're all selected together, so they still move together, which is nice.
Chance to see Steely Dan.
Okay, somewhere in there we got to figure out how to have him say Ray LaMontagne. Okay, so now we got ourselves a little bit of a problem. If we take it down here so that we can hear him say Ray LaMontagne,
Ray LaMontagne.
it loses quite a bit of the impact
Steely Dan.
of switching to Steely Dan. So clearly we can't make our change there. Again, not to constantly belabor being old, but in the days where we did this with tape, oh, what I wouldn't have given to have had this kind of granular control. There are a couple of ways we can bring up the next tool we're going to need. Let's go ahead and do the right click. Actually, I'm sorry. Let's go to here and push this. Track envelopes and automation. Volume envelope is now visible. A faster way to do that is when you're on the track, just use the keyboard shortcut V. This line right here represents the volume of the track. If you push Shift, the marker changes. If you push the left mouse button, it drops a point. It drops a point here. It drops a point there. Let's grab that point and drag it down. We can control the individual volume as you go through that with a volume envelope. Alessio, how much time are you spending working in Pro Tools?
I spent a semester working in it.
Are they still, because I haven't moved past version 7, have they ever gotten past the point where you still have to draw volume envelopes by hand in Pro Tools?
I think there still is the pen tool or whatever they were using for whatever.
But I don't think it has the equivalent of this still. I may be wrong.
I think we were using an older version too, though, so I'm not sure if the latest has fixed it.
What's great about all of these individual points is you don't have to draw the shape of the envelope. You can if you want to, or we can select all points. Whoops, not on time selection. Select all points, and we can say, what will the shape be? I like slow start and end. See how it gives it that nice curve? So now if we were to, just for the sake of making it interesting, drop another point and lift it, see how it creates those nice curves like that? Let's get rid of that point. That gives you a tremendous amount of control over the way the volume's handled in that sound. Okay. So my inclination is to say, I would prefer to have him say Ray LaMontagne around there. And that's just eyeballing it, how you think it sounds best. So let's drag him over and see what it sounds like. Probably a little quieter, and the other thing is, I don't think we want it to go away completely. So we can even set that point value individually. Let's try about -12. We're going to need to make another split here to get that out of the way. Come here, you. still a little bit too loud when he starts saying Ray. So I'm going to drop one more point.
Steely Dan. Are you reeling in the heat? Ray LaMontagne.
Take that down about 3 dB.
Steely Dan. Are you reeling in the heat? Ray LaMontagne.
Incidentally, when I say it takes sometimes about an hour to put one of these together, it's largely fixing volume envelopes to make nice smooth transitions. Let's ungroup all of the song hooks. Okay.
Steely Dan. Are you reeling in the heat? Ray LaMontagne.
Let's get these out of the way. I think about there is where we're going to do the same thing. Let's get that Steely Dan volume envelope out of the way and bring up Ray. We'll drop our first point here, always drop our second point where we want it out. Same thing, let's take that down to about -12, roughly. Probably another point here. And let's select all of the points and change them from those very linear to the slow start and end, which gives us nicer curves.
See Steely Dan. Are you reeling in the heat? Ray LaMontagne.
Gotta move the black keys out of the way. Oops. Are we reacting to how suddenly loud the black keys are? So let's jump back to something just because we're here to not only learn about how to edit sound, but about sound in general. I said before that there's been a huge change in recent history with the way that we compress music. Basically what are being referred to in music as the loudness wars. There's a great example. Here's music that was recorded in the 70s. There's an artist who's current, but he's more acoustic. Look at how solid that is down there on the VU meter. I mean, it's grown very difficult because music as it's mixed today tends to be this giant compressed wall of sound. I'll bring in a session sometime where I've had to mix music from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and today. And you can literally watch broad dynamic range get smoothed out until you can even do it across Springsteen records. I mean, if you want to have some fun, go grab Springsteen from his early career, say Asbury Park, Born to Run, Born in the USA, and then maybe his last record. And it's like it goes from this incredibly broad dynamic range into this gigantic just mess of sound. That makes it very difficult to do work of this kind. And some of us think it actually makes for worse sounding records, but no one's asking me. Okay, so let's see here. Let's move him up. And get that nice and neat again. In this case, I'm not even sure we need to give it a volume envelope to start. I think we need to start by taking it down 6 decibels. He's still awfully quiet under there. So again, we'll drop another envelope or another point on the envelope and drop that down further. He's a little quiet. So let's try one other fun tool. We kind of liked his level through here.
Is Free Ticket Friday. Your chance to see Steve.
Though, you know, I said that I like to keep it at around -6 dB, and he's going at about -12. Let's go ahead and bump up the voiceover 6 decibels.
Today is Free Ticket Friday. Your chance to see Steely Dan. Are you reeling in the heat? Ray LaMontagne.